you were subjected to. Do you have fears for your life from the KGB and the Soviet secret police of 1983?
No, not. I never think about it except like when someone, or once in a while someone asks me, but I never think about it. I'm already sick. I'm almost 67 years old, and I'm here. The only reason I'm here today, I was saved by people in the camps because I was an American, because I was young, and they thought that someday, by some miracle, I would get out to tell the world about what went on in Kalima, and so I have a duty. And then I don't think, why should they kill me? Because no one listens to me. I'm not changing anything. I said before, I've been here, my native Buffalo, 20 years, and I've been banging my head against the wall trying to get my message across, but no one.
As we had the caller Bill, who's with us now, and Bill, are you still there?
Yes, hi.
Hello. We're talking about the problems Tom has had in getting the press to take notice of the plight of the thousands of Americans, hundreds if not thousands of Americans in the 1930s, and millions of Soviet people who underwent the same rigorous and inhumane prison ordeals that he went through. Getting problems he's had getting the press to take notice, and you, as someone of Ukrainian background, quite aware of the suffering inflicted by the communists on the outlying provinces, the outlying republics of the Soviet Union, especially.
Tom, can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you two questions. The first one is sort of specific.
Yeah.
That is, when you were in Kolimya, did you ever run into something called Banderovci or something like that?
Yes.
Were they...
Banderovci.
Yeah, Banderovci, right.
Right.
You ran into them after 45, 48,
right.
Something like
yes.
that. So how many of them were there? Did they...
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't say. I met a few here and there in the early years, because they had the Banderovci had been fighting right after the revolution.
It was a military organization formed in like 1943.
Yes, under General Bandiera, right?
Right, that's right. Okay, my second question is, whenever you talk to an American about the 1930s,
yes,
the only thing I understand is that they had to be pro-communist in order for them to be anti-fascist. So Americans think in terms of either being a communist or a fascist.
Yes.
Think of, like, if you're either pro-communist and anti-fascist, or else if you say something anti-communist, they automatically call you a fascist.
Right.
Would you like to comment on that?
I agree with you 100%, and that it has happened that the people don't know exactly, because I think you have to blame that on the media. They knew more about communism back in the 30s when as I said before, the medium was more balanced. And about fascism, that angers me and infuriates me. Also because I was an anti-fascist all my life. You know, when I was 16 years old in Tech High School, I always tried to get the line across, and I spoke against, I won the all-high oratorical contest here in Buffalo, and you know what the theme was? My oration was Hitlerism and what it means to us against Hitler, and no one listened to me then. Everyone laughed at me when I preached about, tried to warn America about the dangers of Hitlerism. Of course, I did it then through communist eyes, but they all laughed at me. And now I am warning Americans about the dangers of communism, and they don't listen to me again.
For being fascist? For being anti-communist?
No, they daren't call. No one dares call me a fascist.
Happen all the time. I see these like Maoists on the street.
I know they call others. And now it is a fashion. Well, I wish I could talk about this before. You know, the Jews cannot forget the Holocaust which occurred in Hitler's Germany, and I don't blame them. They shouldn't forget. But you know, it angers me when hardly a year passes. It infuriates me. Hardly a year goes by when you see they come up with one extravaganza after another, reminding us how many dozens of the Jewish Holocaust, and not one word. The media hasn't made not even one movie or raised the subject of what is going on in the Soviet Union for 60 years.
Like before, in the early days of the revolution, Lenin wanted to make a Jewish homeland for the Jews in the Soviet.
Yes, in Birobidzhan.
And they got special treatment in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, they did until 1937 and 30.
Yes, if you had a church, it was against the law to be anti-Semitic, but you had to be anti-Christian. You know, it was part of the law, you know, that sort of thing. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you, Bill.
No, well, I have to finish this, I mean, to get me straight, what I went on. That the other the other Holocaust, for instance, the Baltic nations, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, how many thousands, how many millions were killed there, and I saw them killed. I saw Latvians in 1945 at the end of the World War, brought to Kaliman, they all died. I saw Ukrainians, Estonians, Lithuanians, and so many other nationalities. And while every child in the United States knows that 6 million Jews were killed under Hitler, no one knows about the fate of these other and I think it is a big injustice.
886-6450 is your number on extension 55. That's area code 716, phone number 886-6450. Your host, Tom Bauerle, at 1:15 on GR55, speaking with in-studio guest tonight, Mr. Tom Sgovio of Buffalo, survivor of the Soviet concentration camp system. We invite your phone calls, your comments, your questions for Mr. Sgovio. Maybe you might want to ask him about conditions in the prison, his mental outlook then, his mental outlook now, and get some answers from him, or questions about why this isn't being publicized. 886-6450 is your number on extension 55. And we were also, I want to make mention, we were also to have had with us tonight Victor Herman, who is another American who was jailed by the communist authorities in the Soviet Union in the 1930s. Victor went to the USSR to help Ford build a plant in Russia, and before he knew it, he was arrested during the Stalinist purges of the 1930s as well. When we speak with Mr. Sgovio tonight, we're not dealing with an isolated case of an American being busted, if you will, in the Soviet Union. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans and also millions of Soviet people as well. And Tom, why do you think it is, once more, maybe we could get into a little bit more detail on this as we wait to go back to the phones. Why do you think it is that not causes, but stories such as yours, such as Victor Herman's, such as the Armenians and the Ukrainians, Latvians, Estonians, Lithuanians, are not being told as they might be in the American media?
As they should be.
Yes, as they should.
As they should be. Well, see, I've been absent from the United States for 25 years, so I don't know what's going on. I believe the Americans who have been here all the time, they should know more than I what has happened. If you want, personally, and this is, I mean, don't ask me to prove it, but I think, I believe that the communists have penetrated Hollywood. I would say is almost completely is a lot. A lot of communists there, and people or liberals. For instance, a lot of the movies that you see, they're all they show the CIA as murderers. For instance, I saw one movie not long ago called The Amateur, where they showed the CIA, the head of the CIA was a murderer, and the head of the KGB in Czechoslovakia was the hero, was the good guy. And so many others where they've clipped the wings of the FBI, the CIA, bankers, people like Joan Fonda, who once said that if Americans knew what communism really was, they would pray on their bended knees for communism to come to America. And people like that who go around disseminating their ideology, they are really in command.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a definite leftist tilt in the media.
In the media, in Hollywood is full of them. In the colleges.
Back to the phone lines now. 886-6450 is your number on extension 55. Do grab a line, and let's greet Margaret this morning. Margaret, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you.
You're calling us from where?
Pardon?
You're calling us from what part? From Buffalo.
No.
And go right ahead. You're on the air with Tom Sgovio.
I want to ask a question. In the 1970s, or late 1970s or early 80s, I can't remember which, I don't have my facts quite straight, the Israelis shot down a Liberian plane, right?
A Libyan.
Libyan, right, with 110 innocent people on board. And it seemed to be sloughed off. I don't know why. It got a certain amount of press, but not an awful lot. Now, why? How come the Israelis got away with it and didn't have to? How come the Russians are so much worse than they are for doing the same damn thing? They did it. It was with justification that they were over their airways and they were invading their airways, and they were fearful of them, etc., which with perfect justification, probably.
I think it just goes to show what paranoia can do, as per the article in yesterday's paper, what paranoia can do to people in government and the military, irregardless of their ideological philosophies. In other words, I'm not saying, certainly not backing up what the Israelis did or what the Soviets did, but regardless of your political tilt, if you're paranoid, and who knows, maybe deservedly so.
I don't think you even have to be paranoid. I think that if one country does it, why is it justifiable to sit back and criticize another country for doing it? If
Well,
another country already did it.
That's the whole trouble. See, there's hundreds of these questions which have to be answered, and I don't have the answer. I could ask you also. There are a lot of injustice. Why, for instance, does Klaus Barbie, the butcher of Lyon, have to stand trial, and Yuri Andropov, the butcher of Budapest, doesn't have to stand trial?
I agree with you.
So I don't know the answer.
I agree with you completely. But what I think is that Reagan is making a really push for his... As soon as I saw this on the news, as soon as I saw that the Russians shot down this plane, I said, you watch. There will be nobody in America when President Reagan gets up and says that he pushes for nuclear weapons. Nobody's going to say no anymore. They're going to say, oh yeah, my God, the Russians are out to get us. And we really... And he'll be able to push his billions. Right?
Time will tell.
He will, and in the meantime, there'll be still old people scrounging around in garbage looking for food to eat.
Margaret, thanks for your call tonight on Extension 55. Good hearing from you. 886-6450 is your number on with Tom Sgovio. And Tony, you're next.
Yeah?
Are you there? Go right ahead, you're on the air.
Hello?
Can I talk to him?
Yes, I'm listening.
Well, I wanted Tom to know that I've been listening to every word he's saying, and everything he's saying is true, and he's doing a good job, a very good job of telling these people, especially these freezenits, or what the hell ever you want to call them, that they better cut it out. What Tom he's saying is true. This is a good friend of his, so he knows, he'll know who it is.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Good hearing from you this morning. Hank, you're next on extension 55 at 886-6450. Go right ahead.
Hello, Tom.
Yes?
I've listened to the program for about a half an hour,
Yes.
and certainly I appreciate the fact that you present the agonies that the Ukrainians had suffered since, well, I don't know.
500 years.
I beg your pardon?
500 years.
All right, 500 years. I listened to the fact that you had brought up a number of nationalities. You didn't include Poland in.
I'm sorry. You know, it would take so much time. Yes, I should have included all of them.
Indians have a hero.
The Afghans.
That's a Polish extraction.
Yes.
Now, the Polish people in the Second World War, I'm older than you are, incidentally. On the average, the Polish sustained more deaths than any country in the world. I mean, according to the population. It wasn't the Russians, the Germans, the Ukrainians. It was the Polish that had sustained the most deaths according to the population on the average. Now, I realize the plight of the Ukrainians because I've been brought up with the Ukrainians. They're fine people, there's no question about that. But while you're fighting for them, and you're one of them, I appreciate that, and so forth and so on. But I don't ever hear anyone saying something about the 10-year non-aggression pact the Russians had, the Germans had with the Poles, and the French and the British told the Poles not to arm themselves as wasn't necessary. They'd come to their aid, and what happened with the Poles? Now the Poles are under the control, like the Ukrainians have been, like you mentioned, for 500 years.
Yes.
They're in a similar predicament.
Right. They all the Soviet subjects are in the same predicament.
And there's nothing that can be done about it. There's not a thing we can do about it. The only thing that should have been done when the atom bomb was dropped in the Second World War, and like you mentioned, people were always laughing at you when years ago you mentioned certain facts which came out, which were, well, certainly, while we had the opportunity, while we were in Europe, had we used the power then and had the Russians moved right to their boundaries and given these nations that are in the Soviet orbit and control at that time, if they had regained their independence like the Germans and the Italians lost their portions of Africa, you would have had a different situation today. Now, the point is this: who was instrumental in this situation? It was this country, the United States of America. We put the Jews on a footing. We've been giving them billions, handing them a blank check, and they signed it. Today, the Jews will tell us where to get out. I don't blame the Jews in a way. I give them credit. But the point is, we ignore other nations and nationalities. And
perhaps the other nations don't speak out loud, or there are few. This is a very sore point with me, and I deplore it. To me, see, I, as an Italian American, was there, and there were so many other, all these nationalities, and I loved them all. They were all my brothers, and it breaks my heart, and I cry for all of you. And I'm sorry I should have mentioned it, but there are so many, you know, and a word should be said about the Afghans.
Correct.
The brave struggle they're doing. And you know, well, I'll tell you one thing. You know, did you know that where I was in Kolyma, thousands of Poles were in Kolyma, and they were released in 1941 and 43 by the Soviet-Polish Treaty, and they got out. and they tried to tell the world, and even then nobody listened because we were so absorbed with drinking vodka with our beautiful Russian allies.
You know, Tom, the fact is, very few people realize General Sikorski was in England, in London. He was the head. The Polish Free Forces was executed or killed. The plane was blown up with the knowledge of the Americans and the British to get him out of the way and give Stalin whatever he wanted. This is what I have read, and the facts had come up.
Mm-hmm.
You know for a fact, because you've probably seen a TV, a documentary, and Stalin, Churchill, Roosevelt were there. And Mr. Roosevelt asked Stalin how long were the Poles in these lands, and Stalin says, oh, for a long, long time. And Mr. Roosevelt laughed it off. He says, well, they want that land back. Well, we'd have a tough situation if we gave the land back to the Indians, this country.
Hank, thanks for your call tonight. We're going to move along to some other folks who want to get on the air. We appreciate your call, and good hearing from Hank tonight from wherever he was calling from. 886-6450 is your number on extension 55. Your host, Tom Bauerle, on GR55 at 129. Guest tonight in studio, Tom Sgovio of Buffalo, survivor of the Soviet concentration camps. We'll be back with Tom and you right after these. Excuse me, your question or comment for Tom Sgovio?
No, not for Tom, but for the lady that called 2 calls ago, I think, about she was equating the sameness of the Russians and the Israelis shooting down the same plane, or shooting down a passenger plane.
Okay, Dave, just briefly, if you would. We're trying to keep it on the Soviet
I'm getting
camp
there.
system.
Yeah, I'm getting there. And, you know, people pick and choose, I think, what they want to believe in the paper, or what they want to, you know, state as fact. 2 weeks ago, I read that, and perhaps your expert there can back me up. It was 1973 when the Israelites, and I'm not a Jewish person, by the way, shot down this plane. They were at war with Iraq. I believe that to be true. Yes, no?
Excuse me, I'm not an expert on the Far East.
Sorry, Dave, we're really trying to keep this to a discussion of the Soviet camp system and questions for Tom. Maybe the Israeli plane shoot down will have to wait for another night. Do you have any comments as far as the... right, and she didn't go on very long. Dave, do you have any comments about the camp system or questions for Tom in regards to that specifically?
I guess not.
Okay. Dave, thank you very much. And let's move on to Al. Al, are you there? Hello, Al. You're next on extension 55.
Yeah. I was just wondering, I heard the term white Russians used a lot. Are those the Russians who are loyal to the Tsar?
No. Those are the White Guards. They were the White Guards, the National Liberation. When we talk about I call them the Belarusians. That's a part of Russia. It borders Russia proper and Ukraine. They are an independent nationality, entirely different. And in Russian they're called Belarusians, which means White Russians.
Are they loyal to the communist way of life there?
No one's loyal to it, but they're subjugated. They have been subjugated by the communists.
Okay.
And they also have a member status in the United Nations. I never could understand why.
All right, another question. Were your parents, were they disillusioned at all after they went to Russia?
Thoroughly.
How long did it take them?
I beg your pardon?
I mean, after a couple of years there?
Well, I don't know. See, my father, he died. He hated communism with all his being, and my mother also. Yeah, after the purges of 1930, so about the same I did. My sister also. We all became staunch anti-communist.
Okay, would you have felt the same way if they didn't have the purges?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I suppose I would have had to eventually come to that sometime or other.
I see. Okay, one other question. You were in prison during the war years then, right? During the Second World War?
Before, during, and after.
Did you know what was going on? Did you get news inside the prison as to what was happening?
About what? About
that the Germans invaded Russia.
Oh, yeah. Well, we knew there was a war going on, but we were so absorbed in remaining alive, and then there were no radios, there were no newspapers. The bits of newspapers we did get, we used for smoking. We knew I found out about Pearl Harbor in 1947 or 48.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Tom, very good. Thank you.
Al, thank you for your comments and the conciseness of your comments and questions. Always appreciated here at Extension 55. 886-6450 is your number with Tom Sgovio, survivor of the Soviet concentration camps. Helen, you're next on the show, and you're on the air with Tom.
Well, I believe Tom just answered one of my questions. I had read a condensed, version of, was it Escape Across the Ice?
Coming Out of the Ice.
Yes, in Reader's Digest, and I found it, well, I won't say unbelievable, because it was believable, and so that was my question, and he just answered that. I wasn't able to tune in till midnight. Now, I just heard on a game show, believe it or not, they had a question about the kids in high school in Russia being taught how to throw hand grenades. Now, we're being told that the common Russian people are peace-loving and wanting peace. Now, I'm going to hang up. I just want your comment on this. Aren't they aware of what's going on? I mean, how can you be taught to throw a hand grenade in high school and correlate this with you're supposed to be peace-loving? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hang up, and I'd like to hear your comment on this, because it's two opposites.
Okay. Helen, thank you.
Yes, for years now this has been going on. They've installed what they call war games. They make children play at war, and these are very organized. And they, of course, well, the children and the people, they have to do it. They have no alternative. And also they instill them with the idea, the saying always, that the Soviet Union is surrounded by enemies, especially the United States, our main enemy, that it's our intention to destroy them, and they have to. I always say, look what happened in Germany. Germany attacked us, and we won the war, and that they are still surrounded by capitalist enemies, especially America. Of course, they don't mention the fact that that Stalin had made a pact with Ribbentrop then.
Mm-hmm. Help yourself to some airtime. 886-6450, your number on Extension 55, with one of the survivors of the Soviet concentration camps, Tom Sgovio of Buffalo. Janice, you're next on the air at 886-6450.
Yes, I'm really fascinated with listening to your guest this evening.
And I am too.
Brings to mind a book that I read some time ago in college. Possibly he would know this woman, this author. She was a Russian woman, dedicated communist, also a prisoner in the Kalinina in Siberia. Her name was Eugenia Simonovna Ginsburg. Her book is fascinating and brings so much to mind of what your guest is saying. I do hope that he gets to speak in the area more often. We could learn so much from it.
To be honest with you, it was actually, and I don't mind telling this on the air because it may point out the problem of obscurity that Tom has been alluding to tonight, and that is, frankly, I got Tom's number and the information on Tom from Victor Herman, who wrote the article in Reader's Digest, Coming Out of the Ice, the condensed version that the previous caller had referred to. I called Victor, and Victor originally was also going to be on the show. Victor gave me Tom's number. He said, in fact, I called him last week, Victor Herman, who was another American who was imprisoned in the Soviet Union. And I said, Victor, if you'd like to come on the air, I'd love to have you on the phone. And Victor said, there's another guy, his name is Sgovio. And oddly enough, he lives in Buffalo, who I just met at a speaking engagement, and you should give him a call too and see if he'd like to come on. And that's how I got in touch with Tom. I was unaware.
Well, this book that I'm referring to, I read some years ago at University of Buffalo, and it's in one of my required courses. And it's just verbally written by a woman who lived her life as a communist, and how she went through the camps. Just described everything that your guest has spoken about tonight. And
yes, I read her book. She wrote a sequel to that. Her first book was called March into the Whirlwind, right?
Oh, that's right, Journey into the Whirlwind. This is
Journey into the Whirlwind. And now she wrote another book called The Whirlwind, which describes more in detail the conditions of prisoners in Kalimantan. She passed away, by the way.
She did pass away. It was fascinating. I had read
and
this
her book was published by Samizdat.
And
her son is, whom she lost. If you remember, when she was arrested, she lost him. He was in prison. Well, he became quite a writer and a well-known Soviet dissident.
But I was just thoroughly enjoyed the information that you were telling tonight, and it did bring to mind this story. And there's so much of this that generally people I don't know if they're just not interested or what, but this has to be let out. And I greatly admire you for going on the air with it, really.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Janice.
Good luck to you. Thanks for your wonderful program.
Thanks for your call.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. 886-6450, your phone number on extension 55, the 716 area code. Once again, 886-6450. Do help yourself to some airtime. A couple of phone lines open for you as we head into the final 10 minutes of extension 55 this time around. And let's say hi to Dorothy this morning. And Dorothy, you're on the air now with Tom.
Hello.
Hello.
Tom, I do believe in everything you're talking about. Because, in a sense, I remember what it was said in the Bible. The Bible said that the upper, what do we call it, the higher-ups, the people in political, the high-ups, the people that are low would be the peasants of the land. So I would believe in what you're saying. You were in the scapegoat, and therefore the people that are users, and I always think this is the rich people, which I shouldn't believe at times, but I believe that's true, and the rich people are the power and the glory. The people that have none are the scapegoats, and I think they're the ones that have to believe in something. So, if I'm right or if I'm wrong, I don't know. I never knew the meaning of communist in my life. I never had an education about it, but that's what I start to believe, and sometimes I start to believe that Reagan is communist because he doesn't like poor people. Maybe he has a reason. Maybe he thinks that all poor people must work for a living. But I don't know. And this is what I think of communists from what I've heard from people from the old country, especially some immigrants that I met and was with. They always talked about what was communist. I didn't understand because I was a dumb American. Mm-hmm. And I must say, I am a dumb American because I never had a real education. But if they were right, they said that Russia would take our country because we are stupid. And maybe they are right. That's why I do believe in what you are saying altogether. And I believe you are right about us Americans. We are stupid for taking in these kind of people. I wouldn't like to see United States being overthrown by communists and going through the ordeal that you are going, what you went through, or anybody else that is so-called American people. Because I believe in freedom, and I believed you wished this a long time ago. And I believe those people that even preach it. Sometimes you have to be paranoid to think. And the way this country is going, it seems lousy. It seems like other people are working, like we'll say, the black and the white. However, they got the black against the white and the white against the black. And I think that's how it is. I don't know, but I always suspect this. If I'm right, please let me know. I want to know. I really do. I want to know if this is real communist, or what to believe in. If there's I remember on this Otto's program, there was a woman who spoke on communism, and what to look for was these rallies. So I wonder.
Dorothy, thank you for your call tonight. Nice hearing from you. Tom, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, communism is it's hard for an American to really understand what it really is. It's because there is no precedent. There's no other society, no other state has ever existed on this planet which is as evil and as barbaric as communism. And when she says, about Reagan not liking the poor, in the Soviet Union, everyone is poor except very, very, very few. And even they cannot lay down to sleep in peace, because they have to fear that tomorrow he may rise and another dog will tear his throat apart in order to get his place.
And 886-6450 is your number. We've got some time for some closing phone calls with Tom Sgovio, and we will be back with Tom right after these.
This is Ringo.
Let me just say that you are one of the few marathon performers, one of the few people to go the entire duration on Extension 55. Certainly a testament, I think, to the rigors you were subjected to over there. I'll tell you that much. And what are your closing thoughts, having had a chance now to listen to the callers and to recount these stories in your own mind?
Well, I'm sure that in the future there will be other prominent Americans who are going to come and try to fool you Americans and tell you what a nice system the Soviet Union is. Don't believe them. People like Samantha Smith, who spent 2 weeks in the Soviet Union, as compared to the 25 years I did.
How would you suggest this country deal with the Soviet Union?
First, I believe we have to completely reevaluate the attitude towards. We have to completely reevaluate it. And what's most important, we need knowledge. We need knowledge of the real meaning of what it's like to live under communism. Like stories like mine, and I'm sure there are hundreds of others like myself who are here, and if we could all tell our story, and if the media would give more attention to it, to bring it in the living room, to make movies of it, then the people would know what it's really like.
Tom Sgovio of Buffalo, a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Once more, the address for that book is Dear America. This is Tom Sgovio's book, about which we have been speaking tonight. Dear America, P.O. Box 4203, Buffalo, New York, 14217. Dear America, P.O. Box 4203, Buffalo, 14217. That'll be $10.95 plus your sales tax. And once again, my thanks to Tom for stopping down here tonight on Extension 55. Tomorrow night, the Zuckers tell us about snack scents.